Hell yeah! Alright, it's finally time for Zelda. Smash Talk!
Smash Talk!
Now, if you've seen any of the critiques that I've done with Pizza Dude Man Guy at all, you'll know that I'm a fairly big Zelda fan. Fairly big, meaning it's my favorite series. Fire Emblem's a close second, but Zelda is my series. So, initially, I didn't think I was going to cover the timeline, but it's become pretty apparent that it's kind of important, because I've been getting suggestions like this.
Yeah, we need to replace Ganondorf with Girahim because Girahim is gonna be the villain in the next game, not Ganondorf. So Ganondorf's not relevant anymore. Yeah.
Girl, let me tell you about Zelda, okay? Listen up. Zelda does have a timeline. It just doesn't have a very concrete timeline. Nobody really knows what the complete timeline is. There's a lot of hints. There's a lot of games that you can link together. It's just not always clear where some of the connected games go. By now, it's generally accepted that there is a split timeline. Ocarina of Time is probably the game that is most well known in the series because it was huge when it came out. It was the first big 3D adventure, and it really is a good game. It's not my favorite, but it's one of my favorites. Ocarina of Time right now is also considered to be the first in the timeline, debatably. It's at least the most concrete early game that we can place, and this is why. When Link pulls out the Master Sword, he skips ahead 7 years in time. You know, he's now an adult, he can wield big weapons, he can do things that Kid Link couldn't do. Young Link, whatever. When he pulls the sword out, it opens the passage to the Sacred Realm, and Ganondorf can get through, and he steals the Triforce of Power. Link gets the Triforce of Courage, and Zelda gets the Triforce of Wisdom. This remains a motif throughout the rest of the series. Now, Link eventually defeats Ganon, I should say. He defeats Ganondorf, and then Ganondorf, using the power of the Triforce, turns into this big monster named Ganon. Link, of course, defeats Ganon. What kind of series would it be if he didn't defeat him? And this is where things get complicated. Link goes back in time to when he was a kid, leaving the split timeline. Because now, what you've got is the world after defeating Ganon as Link leaves. And Ganon is sealed away by the Seven Sages. After he defeats Ganon. He doesn't kill Ganon. Ganon gets sealed away. Then in the child timeline, Link goes and he tells Zelda and the king, he warns them about Ganondorf. And so Ganondorf is executed. He isn't allowed to do any of the horrible things that he did in the adult timeline. Now, in the kid timeline, Link goes to Termina and has Majora's Mask. Now, after Majora's Mask, there's nothing for a while. I think they said it was around 100 years later, Twilight Princess takes place. And so those three games are linked. Those are ones that are definitely set. Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, Twilight Princess, with a 100-year gap between Majora's Mask and Twilight Princess. Now, in the adult timeline, where he leaves and goes back in time after Ganon's sealed away, I should also mention, in the child timeline, they don't kill Ganondorf. They try to execute him. But as it's revealed in Twilight Princess, they end up only being able to seal him away in the Twilight Realm, which is why he comes from there in Twilight Princess. Now, for Wind Waker, what happened was, after he leaves, after defeating Ganon and goes back to being a child, Link is no longer in that world. Link is gone. And so when Ganondorf breaks out of his seal, there's no hero there to defeat him or to help. And so what they have to do, as is revealed in Wind Waker, is just flood Hyrule to get rid of him. So the reason Wind Waker takes place on the sea is because Hyrule's gone. All those islands are the tips of the mountains in Hyrule in Ocarina of Time. And that's why you find Ganondorf below the waves, and you have to fight him down there. Now, after Wind Waker, Wind Waker's got a direct sequel, Phantom Hourglass. It's very, very clear that Phantom Hourglass is a direct sequel, because you've got Tetra, and you've got characters that were in Wind Waker, and it also says in the book that it's not a significant amount of time afterwards. It's around a year, I think they said. Spirit Tracks takes place centuries later. It's an unclear amount of time, but it's way later. Link and Tetra, after Phantom Hourglass, have gone off to find a new Hyrule. And so Spirit Tracks takes place in this new Hyrule, and it's steampunk, they've got trains and everything. So those games are all linked. The 3 Toon games are linked, for sure. And they're actually linked to Ocarina of Time. So those are set. You've got Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, Twilight Princess, Ocarina of Time, Wind Waker, Phantom Hourglass, Spirit Tracks. This is where it gets hard. You've got a bunch of other games where it's not really clear what happened. For example, the first 2 games they made, Legend of Zelda and Adventure of Link, the translation was horrible. Nintendo wasn't taking things incredibly seriously. It wasn't a big deal yet because, you know, games had just started. It wasn't a huge project yet. The way they translated it was having a Japanese-speaking employee translate it into English, and then having somebody from Nintendo of America translate it. Not translate it, but fix the grammar so that it makes sense in American. So it's entirely possible that things got screwed up in the translation, because the Japanese employee probably didn't know all the nuances and the semantics, so slight differences could occur. That, and Miyamoto has said some things about the timeline that are contradictory, mostly because Miyamoto's not heavily involved with the series' story development anymore. So those translation errors make it difficult to place Legend of Zelda and Adventure of Link. They're generally considered to be at the end of the timeline now, though. They're considered to be the last games in the chronology so far. The Oracle games and Link's Awakening are also hard to place. They've been put together before, because they're both Link in a far-off land, not in Hyrule anymore. But it's still not clear where they go. One of the theories I've seen that's actually kind of cool is it's not just a split timeline theory, but it's a split timeline theory that rejoins and says that when the timeline splits and goes, you know, adult-child, it comes together at the Oracle games, and from there on, it's a single timeline again. And I thought that's a kind of cool idea, and I can definitely see some evidence to support it. I see some evidence to disprove it too, but nobody's found the perfect timeline yet. But I think that's a pretty cool one. Now, what's really important here, though, the reason I'm talking about timeline, is there are 3 games with Vaati in them. And depending on where you put them, and what order they come in, Vaati has a very, very different significance to the series. Minish Cap is the first game that Vaati's appeared in, and it's been debated whether it's the first game or somewhere in the Wind Waker adult timeline. I don't really know. It makes sense for me to have it as the first game, because there's no Master Sword. Various reasons. I don't want to get too in-depth, because this isn't about the timeline, this is about the characters. Thing is, though, if Minish Cap is the first game in the series, and then the 2 other games with Vaati, Four Swords Adventures, if they take place later, that means Vaati has been around a much longer time than if the 3 games go one right after another, which is also possible. I can see evidence to support that too. So that says a lot about his presence in the series, how powerful he is in terms of remaining as a spirit, that sort of thing. So I want to stress, Skyward Sword, the game that's going to have Ghirahim as the villain, the reason Ganondorf's not the villain is because Skyward Sword has been said to take place before Ocarina of Time, and Ocarina of Time is the game where Ganondorf appears. That's his first game. Ghirahim's not replacing him because Ganondorf's not relevant anymore, or because he's no longer a big villain. It's just because Ganondorf's not born yet. It's a prequel, and they actually stated that it's going to explain why Ganondorf came to Hyrule. So it's still going to be about Ganondorf slightly. He's just not going to be the main villain. So that's why. Don't take out Ganondorf. Come on. I mean, he's been the villain in over half the games. I mean, seriously? Guys, come on. Now, let's talk about the characters specifically. One of the really popular choices that I've seen that I do support is Toon Zelda. Toon Zelda is obviously in the Toon games, which all take place one after another, except for, the 100-year difference or so in Spirit Tracks. Now, Toon Zelda is, it's debated whether she also counts as Tetra. Tetra is the reincarnation of Zelda in Wind Waker. If you didn't know, there are many Links and many Zeldas throughout the timelines, not just like a Link for adult and a Link for child, but there's several within both of those timelines because it spans hundreds and hundreds of years, and Link is not a divine being, he's just a human with a piece of the Triforce. So Tetra, I would count as being Toon Zelda. I know it's debatable, people say, oh, Toon Zelda's only in one game, she's only in Spirit Tracks. But no, that's just the only game where they had a functioning monarchy. She's still Toon Zelda, and she still founds Hyrule. Tetra does. So Tetra is still the royal matriarch of New Hyrule. She's directly linked to it. She founds it. So I would count Toon Zelda as having been in 3 games, not 1. And it's debated whether you would have her turn into Tetra or into a Toon version of Sheik, which, no. There's no Sheik in that timeline. I mean, there is in Ocarina of Time in the adult timeline ending. But there's no Toon Sheik, and that'd be weird. No. I would either have Toon Zelda transform into Tetra, or just have it be Tetra. Although I'd like the transformation because Toon Zelda does have a distinct personality. Or, another idea that I kind of like is having Toon Zelda inhabit the spirits... Not the spirits. Having Toon Zelda's spirit inhabit the bodies of the Phantom Guards in Spirit Tracks, which is pretty cool. It's the first time Zelda's had an active role in doing something besides shooting light arrows, and it allows for a lot of variety in moves. It's a pretty cool idea. So I think Toon Zelda is a very likely choice. I support it. I've also seen Toon Ganondorf, which I do support, not as much. See, here's the thing. Right now, we've got Link, Zelda, Ganondorf, Toon Link. Link, Zelda, and Ganondorf are the 3 big players. They are the 3 pieces of the Triforce. They are the 3 consistent characters. They're really all there is in the way of big players in the Zelda series. There's no other incredibly main characters, unless you get into things like Daphne's the King, who doesn't fight or anything. If you add Toon Zelda and Toon Ganondorf, that's sticking with the 3 big players, which is a viable option. I would not put in Toon Ganondorf and not Toon Zelda, because it's odd to leave Toon Zelda out, because in the Toon games, Ganondorf's only appeared in 1. He's only been in Wind Waker. So I'd only put Toon Ganondorf in if you're trying to go with the big players and represent them in both timelines, which is a viable option. Toon Zelda, though, does stand on her own if you don't also add Toon Ganondorf. Ganondorf would also have a different style as Toon Ganondorf, too. In Wind Waker, he was much more agile. He fought with 2 swords. He wasn't the big, slow... He would walk during battle, but then he would also do crazy flips all over the place, and he was a much different fighter than he was in the non-Toon games. So it's a difference in style. He wouldn't be a clone, which is nice. Tingle. I'm not gonna lie, I would love to play as Tingle. I don't understand why everybody hates Tingle. Aside from the 3 big players, he's had more appearances than basically anybody. He was in Majora's Mask, he was in Wind Waker, he's had his own games. He's the only character besides Link to have his own games in the Zelda series. Although, I guess it's a spin-off, so not the Zelda series itself. But he was a fairly big character. He did various things. Most of his moves would come from the things he could do on the Tingle Tuner, though, which is the multiplayer option of Wind Waker, where you connect your Game Boy Advance to the GameCube, and you can bomb things, you can mark the map, you can basically assist Link actively while he's playing the game. It's a lot of fun. not gonna lie. I kind of wish they'd still do things like that. Vaati. This is a tough choice. Vaati would bring something new to the series because he'd be a wind mage, which is not something we have. He is the biggest secondary villain in terms of he's got 3 games, like I said. If you want to go the villain route, I would go with Vaati. He makes more sense than the other villains to me. Once again, it's just debatable how huge of an impact he's actually had on the series because it's not entirely sure what he did to the timeline. In the end of Vaati's saga, though, it still ended up being Ganondorf who's the big guy. As a secondary villain, he's the biggest. If you want to go with another villain besides Toon Ganondorf, it would be Vaati. He'd have a unique moveset, so it would work. Onyx. I've seen Onyx. Onyx and Varen are the respective villains of Oracle of Seasons and Oracle of Ages. 2 of the smallest games in the series. They only appeared there, and really, they were setting up Ganon. They were bringing back Ganon. They were minor villains, even to Twin Rova. So, I don't think they should be in. They're not important. They aren't. They're more pawns. You know, it's like putting in Zant, which some people actually wanted to do, which is a bad idea. Zant was just a pawn of Ganon in 1 game. You know, he's not that important to the series overall. Twin Rova. I've seen this. It's better than Onyx and Varen. But I would honestly rather have Twin Rova as a boss than as a playable character. Twin Rova was in... I should say, Twin Rova is Kume and Kataki, 2 witch sisters. They were in Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, and the Oracle games. So I guess you could say they've had 4 appearances. However, they were very, very different appearances. In Ocarina of Time, they were a boss, and they combined into Twin Rova. And it was a pretty awesome boss, I'm not gonna lie. That's why I think Twin Rova should be a boss and not a playable character. Although you could say, you know, you fight as Kume and Kataki, and then for their final smash they fuse into Twin Rova or something. So if you want to go with Twin Rova, it's possible. I don't think it's a good choice. Majora's Mask, they were a plot point, but they weren't villains. You were actually their friend. They ran a game in the swamp. In the Oracles, they revived Ganon. They sacrificed Onyx and Varen to revive Ganon, basically. Well, they sacrificed 2 of the Oracles. Girahim? No. I think he's just going to be a minor villain like Zant. Maybe a little bit bigger, but no. Skull Kid. Oh boy, a lot of people want this in because Majora's Mask, which I'm not going to lie, is one of my favorites. It was a really, really powerful character, a really, really powerful game. However, Skull Kid wasn't the villain. He was a great character. He really was. He was really deep. Majora was the villain. I would rather have Majora be a boss in the game than a playable character because I don't know how you would fit Majora into the game gameplay-wise. And when I say you can't fit somebody in gameplay-wise, don't make a moveset for them and say, see, I can do it! That's not what I mean. Majora, body-wise and everything, doesn't fit that well. That's it. Skull Kid didn't fight much by himself. Twilight Princess, you did chase one, but it wasn't a huge fight or anything, and he didn't show a lot of fighting capabilities. He's a great character. I don't think he's right for Smash. So that's basically all the big players in the Zelda series. My top choices: Toon Zelda, Tingle, just because I love Tingle, and I know he's hated in America, but he's wildly popular in Japan, and he has been a fairly big character compared to others. Vaati is fairly likely for me. Not as much as Toon Zelda, and about as much as Tingle. Toon Ganondorf works. I think he's likely. Those are the 4, basically, that I think are good ideas. Toon Zelda, Toon Ganondorf, Tingle, Vaati. So, do what you will. This video's already gone on too long. I'm going to cut it here. Next week, Kirby. That's what I've decided on. Next week. Wow, I've been doing this every Thursday, haven't I? It's weird. I never, set that in my mind. It's just how it's been working out, schedule-wise, I guess. So, yeah. That's what I think. If you have any ideas for Kirby, if you have anything you want me to bring up or discuss, send me a message. Don't put it in comments. Just send me a message. And yeah, let me know your reactions. That's basically about it. Alright, see you guys. Oh, and P.S. If you're a Zelda fan and you somehow didn't know by now, Skyward Sword's coming out in November. It's up for pre-order now, and in the first release, every game is going to have a CD of fully orchestrated music from the entire series. I've been playing some of it. Well, I mean, this isn't the official Zelda music. What I've been playing is Zelda Reorchestrated. Amazing project. ZREO. No, orchestrated Zelda music is amazing. So pre-order. You better pre-order. And if you get like a legendary edition, the special edition, whatever they call it, um, it's only $20 more, and you get a along with the CD and the guarantee of getting the game. You get a special golden Zelda Wiimote with Wii Motion Plus. Get it. Get it.